Dear learners, welcome back to the third module of this unit, which deals with quantitative techniques in tourism and hospitality research. So, in the last slides, you must have got an idea about what is quantitative research and how we can conduct quantitative research in detail. And in today's lecture, we are going to see common practices followed in tourism and hospitality research. The common practices in quantitative researches used by tourism and hospitality researchers, the first task is to identify a potential research area. So, at this point of time, perhaps you would be thinking about how to conduct your dissertation and how you can go ahead with your thesis if you are in your PhD. So, you must have already started reading books or reading research articles which we call literature review, and if you are in PhD, you would be clear that how to identify the research gap. For the sake of undergraduate students, let me again explain what is research gap. Research gap is important while you are designing your synopsis or research proposal. After going through the review of literature, you come to know that in certain areas researches are not conducted or some methods are not used, or the framework used in the study, that is another gap that we can understand. So, research gap identification plays an important role. Then comes identification of a suitable theory. Let me give you an outline of a theory. Theory means a broad set of concepts that relate to a particular meaning, and it make a meaning and that could be universally applicable, and in some cases it would be context specific, and based upon the theory, hypotheses are fixed. Theory gives the direction to conduct your work, and finally the researcher collect the data from the field. How? Through developing a suitable instrument that we call questionnaire. So, the questionnaire design is very important in data collection process. So, in questionnaire we find a demographic profile of the respondent as well as the subject detail which you are going to inquire, that we call items. That means a statement, you term it as an item. For example, we can use a statement like this: I am willing to do online shopping. I like online shopping. It is easy to use mobile applications to do online shopping. So, we are creating these statements, and these statements in altogether will measure specific construct. I am talking about the shopping aspect. A construct, thus it means it is related to shopping. So, I can say preference to online shopping is the construct. Then the questionnaire is tested. That test include validity of the questionnaire. So, I say that I like shopping, or maybe the youth like shopping. So, do you think that statement is valid? And if you are applying three different statements that we call reliability of the scale, the first aspect is validity, the structuring of the sentence, that sentences collectively give a meaning as a construct, and when you conduct data collection, the reliability aspect, whether these three statements collectively represent my preference to online shopping, then it is tested with a small sample size that we call pilot study. So, after completing pilot study, normally researchers modify the instrument or make necessary corrections so that they can go into the final levels of data collection. So, then once you collect the data, we have to screen the data. If there are any errors or any mistakes, that we call purification process. The raw data that we collect from the field, that may need purification, because if the data is not cleaned, that will impact the result. So, the questionnaire items, multiple items which are grouped under dimensions, factors or constructs. In the previous video, I have given an outline on the frequently used terms in quantitative research. Now, we hear about Likert type scale or semantic scales. These are nothing but a kind of measuring pattern. Agreement, I like, means how much I agree to that. Agreement or disagreement, that is presented in a equal distance format, that 1 to 5. 1 strongly disagree, 5 strongly agree. So, in between you have 2, 3, 4. So, you can check whether you are agreeing to it or you are disagreeing to it. Similarly, there is another scale called the semantic scale. Semantic scale again measure a particular distance. That means how strong, how weak a particular machine is or a particular instrument is, or how efficient, efficiency wise. So, semantic scale measures a particular aspect in two-end continuum. Now, let us see some topic of inquiry. Here, I mentioned the common topics of research which is taking place across the globe in the case of tourism and hospitality. Here, I have mentioned the first one, tourist behavior studies. Here we study attitude, satisfaction, loyalty, revisit intention, and finally understanding the perception. The second point is host behavior. Here host attitude and their support towards tourism is examined at different context. Destination studies, that deals with the destination image, destination marketing, destination competitiveness and authenticity. These all are the key terms that when we come across tourism and hospitality research. One aspect is place attachment. For tourists, if they like a place, they get attached to it, and that term that we use here is place attachment. When we study about hospitality, it involves service quality, satisfaction, or reuse intention, service failure, etc. Now, let us enter into the world of ICT. Here we find a big data analysis and how big data is helpful to manage the destinations. The next aspect is spatial analysis, space and its use, and especially in case of tourism, tourism is one of the very influential factor in urban areas or even rural areas. So, what extent tourism related establishments can be found in a particular geographical area, that we can conduct a study through spatial analysis. By now, you might be heard about sustainability in many platforms, tourism and sustainability issues. And the last point, which are very relevant in today's world, one is gender issues, and the second one is diversity, equality and inclusiveness. This DEI is one of the most discussed topic in contemporary tourism and hospitality research. So, dear learners, when you are designing your dissertation, think in these lines which I suggested here in this slide. You take a topic which you found interesting, and it could be dealing with the people. I told you about a tourist, host or intermediaries, any other stakeholders. Or you may take object, or here the case of object means structures, tangible or intangible structures that attract tourists. Or you may take other dimensions. That dimensions include the motivation or the experience of visitors, and how that will reflect in the destination popularity or destination publicity. And the last aspect which we have seen is big data or artificial intelligence. Generative AI and AI is playing a vital role in these days, and you can conduct small studies by using the tools of AI to extract information from internet and to study the use of such tools in tourism and hospitality research. I presented an example here, that is the attitude of tourists using digital payment in heritage sites. So, you might be visiting different heritage attractions. I would like to take the example of a World Heritage Site that is under Archaeological Survey of India. So, when you use digital payment system, I have taken two different aspects. Now, how do you feel the usage? Number one, that is perceived use, and number two, the easiness of the use, that I call PEU termed, perceived ease of use. Both of these constructs, whether this will impact the attitude to use, that means maybe in the future again I would like to use it, that is what the question is. So, I have made two hypotheses out of this. One is perceived use positively and significantly impact in the attitude of the tourist, and the second one, perceived ease of use, that also positively and significantly impact the attitude to use. So, these kind of statements you can find very common in tourism and hospitality research. So, H1 indicates hypothesis 1, H2 indicate hypothesis 2. So, the independent variables are perceived use and perceived ease of use. The dependent variable here is attitude to use. So, the independent variables predict dependent variable. The process to conduct the study involves identify a heritage site. Let us take the example of Taj Mahal, one of the world wonders, and large number of visitors you can find queuing up in the counters of the entry gates in Taj. Conduct a survey among the visitors. You can see that some people prefer to collect the ticket from the counter by paying cash, and those people who are digital friendly, those who installed the mobile application or scanning the QR code, you can get the ticket. So, if those people who used QR code scanning, you can ask them, you can meet them separately, conduct a study, and the results of the study will give you a general idea in other archaeological survey of India sites or heritage sites, how this digital payment system is functioning. People have really interest to use this digital payment system. And that is what I said earlier. The outcome of quantitative researches can be generalizable. Let us move to the next slide. See, in this slide, you can find statements. Do you remember I used the term item? So, the first item is buying tickets online helps me to avoid the queue. I just imagine it myself and wrote this statement. So, this is item number 1. So, how many items are under perceived ease of use? This is number 1. Number 2, it simplifies the process, useful, avoids problems of having cash all the time. There are 4 items under perceived use, and there are 3 items under perceived ease of use, and there are again 3 items under attitude. So, what scale I am using? Likert type scale. See, I want to know whether they disagree with it. The level of their disagreement is measured at 5 levels, and this we call Likert type scale. So, the validity of the statement I have to check. We call face validity, content validity. This if I am conducting the study, I have to verify it with anyone who used similar scale in the past, or any expert who can give me a right opinion. Now, the first aspect is, after you complete the data, you have to check the data thoroughly. There may be people who did not answer some queries. There would be wrong entries. So, through checking the data, you can verify it. Then I will calculate the frequency, means percentage, the opinions that you received in percentage. Then in statistical terms, you must have heard about correlation. The inter-item correlation, item to item correlation, I have to check, and that we call reliability. In statistical terms, it is called alpha, Cronbach alpha, that we will study again in the advanced levels. If the reliability is verified, just imagine that more than 70% of the respondents, their opinion synchronizes with your result in a particular line, that we can call reliability. The threshold value, earlier I told, the Cronbach alpha should be 0.07 or above. Next comes, what test is good to predict. So, here I use linear regression to predict the particular model, and then comes checking the result, and finally we will come to drawing the inference. I hope you understood. Now, let me proceed to the result presentation. The results of this hypothesis can be made like, the perceived use has an impact on attitude of the user, or perceived ease of use also impact the attitude of the user. So, when I am thinking of introducing digital payment system, I should make sure that the end user, the person who get the ticket, the process should be easy, and the person feels that it is better than the getting a ticket standing in a queue in the counter. So, we come to theoretical understanding. That theoretical understanding says the cognitive assessment of the user about a particular service or feature. That means psychologically how people understand or they infer such kind of innovative designs. Another working example which I would like to provide. So, gender plays an important role, all of we are aware of this. In hospitality startups, what extent it plays a major role, and I am taking the example of Bangalore. Bangalore is said to be the IT capital and it is also the startup capital. So, when we say male and female, they initiate business. So, I am specifying here hospitality startups. That means any kind of restaurant chains, any kind of hotels or any form of cloud kitchens where the gender plays a role or not. How to conduct the study? Collect the data of hospitality startups registered and identify whose name this registration is there, male or female initiatives. Try to reach out to these initiatives and then you can decide appropriate statistical test to conduct the study. Second case, see, we find that all lakes are attractive tourist destinations and you find water sports are common in these lakes, water bodies. So, I wanted to know what change these water sports bring to the water body. Not only to the water body, also to the banks of the water body. So, we have to identify the dimensions. One is water quality and the second one is aquatic life or pollution, etc. So, we have to figure out exactly what we want to study on. And the few more examples, working examples I would like to give you, because when you do field study, you have a complete understanding of quantitative researches. See, we have several UNESCO World Heritage Sites in India. We also have interpretation centers near to the site. We all are aware that tourists visit World Heritage Site, but do they visit interpretation center? Because interpretation centers are constructed with advanced technology and there is a lot of investment in it. So, we can understand the attitude of tourists who use the interpretation center nearby the site or not. The second aspect here is the feedback of tourists on different areas of interest, that is conservation, tourist amenities available including signages or sitting benches or free water dispensers, baby care, a number of such amenities we can categorize, and how domestic tourists and international tourists, their feedback, collect the feedback of domestic and international tourists. And in the last, you can examine whether they have a genuine interest to revisit the site. So, what are the three different areas we are studying here? One is the interpretation center built near the site, and the second is the feedback of domestic and international tourists on the amenities and facilities available, and the third one is the interest of tourists to revisit the site. So, dear students, several examples I placed before you. So, do you think these assignments, small assignments that you can take up? With the help of your teacher, you can conduct a small study, and this survey based study will give you a very good outcome of what is the trend, what is going on the ground, and you will also develop your skills, that is analyzing and interpreting the results. So, you can make a small experiment or you can take up such a small studies so that your research abilities also will grow time to time. So, if you are an undergraduate student, these small assignments will help you to build your project, and if you are in postgraduate level, take up specific research question and go ahead with the data collection plans. Seek the help of your supervisor for doing the data analysis process and coming out with conclusions. And for PhD scholars, the responsibility is much higher. You have to confirm the validity of the scale, the reliability part, and finally the model which you build should adequately explain the relationships. Let me conclude here. We have discussed the common practices in tourism and hospitality research in terms of quantitative techniques, and we have taken several examples too. I have given you a brief idea about how to identify the research gap, and with the help of examples we try to explain hypothesis and how to interpret the results. I hope this lecture is helpful to you. If you have any doubts, please come back to me. Thank you.